and welcome to the Comic Corner, our gateless comic oasis. And we were thinking about who could our first guest be since we had an Eisner Award-winning writer. So we went deep inside the Agents of Fandom, and we have our good friend Carlos to follow up on Kelly Thompson.
Yeah, it was a great opening act, but the headliner's here, ladies and gentlemen.
I was like, someone had to do it.
Yeah, when
Carlos,
you
how
asked
you been,
me, I
man?
was like, I don't know that I'm cut out for this. I've listened to your other episode. I've done nothing in this field.
This is actually technically the first time we're kind of like speaking face to face in a sense. So this is exciting because you and I, we go off in group chats and whatnot and
Mhm.
talk about Marvel theories, Marvel comic theories, comic reviews and stuff. So this is fun.
I talk to you more than I talk to most people in my life, but this is the
Me
first
too.
time I've ever spoken to you.
That's true.
Right, yeah.
Very true. So I ask every single person who comes to the Comic Corner, what is your comic origin story? How did you get sucked into this world?
So it was definitely the comic book store that was next to the Webster Place Theater in Chicago. I'm born and raised in Chicago, and it was just a matter of leaving the theater and then here, you walk past the comic book store, and I was like, "There's a whole store full of this? Like what? Because normally you'd see maybe a spinner rack at the grocery store or something like that, but this was like an entire storefront dedicated to this." And I walked in and I didn't know what I was doing because I was 8 or 9 years old, and it was you know the Jim Lee X-Men #1 that everyone owned 9 copies of, and it was that era of comics, and I just bought stuff. And like I remember reading that first X-Men and going like, I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. This isn't a true #1.
I'm still laughing because a lot of I dive into X-Men every now and then. I still have no idea what's going on.
I kind of realized, I jumped in again with Hickman, with the
Mhm.
Krakoa run, and I just kind of realized like this is the best it's gonna get ever to jump back in, and because it's its own universe. It really is its own comic universe. But
It's
that was
so
my
deep right now.
that was my origin there, and it was very. Unfortunately, I remember the people being there being kind of gatekeepy with it and being like, you're a child. What are you doing at this comic book store? Which that's exactly who should be at a comic book store. Yeah, but but that was it. And from then, I remember, jumping into, again, 90s kid. I remember jumping into Spawn around issue 9, 10, something like that, and being like, this is edgy and I'm an adult because I've read this. And basically every comic book store, if I passed one, I'd be like, I'm going to go in there and see if they have the latest issue of Spawn. And that was kind of the beginning of my journey. And then you go to high school, and it wasn't like it is today. You kind of have to hide it under a bushel, that you enjoy this stuff. But I think right around the time of when the movie started becoming big again, when not only Spider-Man but like Batman Begins was kind of the big one, where it's like we can take this stuff seriously, and it's people were coming to the comic book readers and be like, tell me more about this Ra's al Ghul, and you'd say, actually it's Raish. And so that was the beginnings of it in my adult life, was kind of coming back to it. And now I'm like a regular at my comic book store, and COVID actually helped with that. I had been going in regularly, but when COVID hit and all of these places were shutting down, I was like, all right, I'm now going to subscribe to some books just to keep my place in business, because I don't want them to shut down. And so, I'm sure I wasn't the only one. I'm not single-handedly keeping my comic book store in place, but that was like where I started. It was like I had been limiting myself to one book a month, and then like the COVID came, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna jump off the deep end and just get any comic I feel at this point.
Yep. 10, 12, $15 a week, and you
Oh,
never know
easy.
after that.
Yeah.
But that's good. So the idea behind this episode is to look back on 2022 and look ahead to 2023, because we are in a great age of comics right now. We really are.
Yeah.
So I want to look back on some of our favorites from last year in Marvel and DC and the Indies, and what we are looking forward this year, because there's already some events that are lined up. There was some big events that created storylines that we'll be seeing in 2023. But I wanted to go back and ask you, Carlos. Let's start from the top. Let's start at Marvel.
Okay.
What was your favorite Marvel comic of 2022?
I thought that this was going to be an easier question to answer, and I
And it's
think
not.
it's not, and it's not necessarily like a bad thing. It's because there are a few books that I frequent that I would choose from. I think though I come back home to Daredevil and Chip Zdarsky, and I really enjoy the mix of like street level with like ancient prophecy, and, like and kung fu with destiny and ninjas and guns. Like it is all very cool. And then I just really enjoy Matt Murdock, and I that's my favorite corner of the Marvel universe. Like I enjoy all of it, but I really dig like Kingpin's my favorite Marvel character and has been for 30 years. And so yeah, that's where I come back home to is Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil run.
And Devil's Reign last year was a great event, and it was almost considered like a mini event because it wasn't hyped up to like how you would say like an Axe Judgment Day is hyped up, but Devil's Reign was really really good. I really enjoyed it, and it served as a good turning point to conclude, I guess you could say, Chip's first run on Daredevil,
Right,
and transitioning now into his second run, which is renumbered, even though it's a continuation of the first one.
right.
And it serves as a great turning point to be like, this is where we're going with things. And I thought it was really well done.
Uh, Completely agree. And again, if you love Kingpin,
Mm.
Devil's Reign is your book. Like it's your
Yep.
run. And I thought Zdarsky's Kingpin stuff, like just even the stuff that was away from Matt, like the things of like potential, where he meets the upper echelon of New York politics, and they're like not threatened by him. They're just like, yeah, you're just kind of a thug, and we're not scared by that. That doesn't
Mm.
even loved it. I was like, this is incredible. Like,
Yeah,
let me
there's
live
good
in these
stuff in
comics.
there. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
good stuff in there. To even, Fisk was scared because there's
Yes.
people you could say is more powerful than him. And for those who haven't read Devil's Reign, and I highly, highly suggest it. First, I'd recommend Zdarsky's first run of Daredevil because it leads
Yes.
into Devil's Reign. And then you can start right into Devil's Reign. And it's essentially the story of Kingpin wanting to become mayor of New York
Hmm.
and his way of doing it, and how, and when he does get to that point, he outlaws superheroes, and
Because of
only
course he
the
does.
Thunderbolts, only the Thunderbolts can be the heroes. And in this case, he twisted the use of the Thunderbolts, and it used to be bad guys trying to be good. This is just bad guys being cops.
Yep. It's
So it
it's
was a
perfect.
really good mini event. Highly recommend it. That's a great recommendation because it was my first one on my honorary mentions.
Okay.
Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky.
Hmm.
Second one, I had Moon Knight, Jed McKay. I think McKay's Moon Knight has been fantastic, excellent, almost character defining to a point we're getting there. I don't think it's as
Yeah.
character defining as like Jeff Lemire's run just yet, but
Sure.
it's getting there, and it's a great entry level point for anyone who wants to get into the character.
And I think that's the key to it is like Moon
Mm.
Knight is a hard when the Moon Knight series was starting and everyone was like, where do I get in? And even like the most seasoned comic people were like, I'm not entirely sure where you get in, but just kind of like get in somewhere and, and you'll kind of sort it out.
Lemire, I guess.
Yeah,
It's a little
right,
weird,
exactly.
but that's the point, I suppose.
Right. This run is a great starting point for
Mm.
Moon Knight readers.
And then my third one I had on here because I wanted to do three, and I always have to shout it out because it's one of my favorites, is Strange Academy. Scotty
Oh yeah.
Young, Humberto Ramos. I love this series, but it wasn't my favorite series of the year
Mm.
because my favorite series of the year is essentially a children's book, but is not a children's book. It's for all ages, and it was a digital comic from our previous guest, Kelly Thompson, and it's Jeff. And there's very few books on a weekly or monthly basis, whenever they come out, that I anticipate. I'm like, I can't wait for the next one. I can't wait for the next one. And for some reason, it's Jeff. Just got me whenever I got a little ding from my, Marvel Unlimited app saying new issue of It's Jeff. Never tap faster. Every single week, bi-week, whatever it was. The art from Guri Hero is fantastic. The character designs from everyone is lovely. The way that she's able to tell stories without words is so good, and it's so heartwarming. And it's like Marvel has, and I say this so many times, Marvel has a Grogu on their hands. They have a baby Yoda. He is right there. His name is Jeff the Land Shark. And the longer they wait, it's a cash opportunity. Yes. And it is. And I love Jeff. It needs to be more merch. I need to see him in an animated short on Disney Plus. I just need him everywhere. And this series
are in complete agreement on Jeff
for shorts.
We're in
this series is like how Jeff. The Groot shorts are. Yes. This is it.
Yes.
This is it.
Yeah, this book is so reminiscent of like Sunday morning newspaper like comic strips, Calvin and Hobbes or Snoopy, and it's you don't need any words and it's the cutest thing you've ever seen and it's funny and Jeff is like it's one of the most perfectly designed characters just ever. Like you just immediately I became that like take all my money meme, just take my money, I will give you all of it. Just make things with Jeff in it.
Mm-hmm. And I really hope we get a lot of character design to get to that point. Cause he started out having like the 4 legs with the side fins and it was a little ugly, a little wonky in West Coast Avengers and slowly shaped and morphed. And now he's perfect.
It's the way that, animals evolved to be more welcoming to humans. It was like, Jeff's like, yes. It's just, we need more Jeff. I really would love to see Jeff like in Deadpool 3 and then just bring him in, just get him in there.
Perfect. Yeah. Can we talk about that real quick? Just super quick. Okay. Our dream Deadpool 3 script idea, because you and I, this was your idea, but ever since you brought it up, I've been just like head first. I'm like, I need this to happen.
Yeah. So everyone, is kind of theorizing online that Deadpool 3 is going to be Deadpool getting shot through the Fox universe through time. And that'll be how they, annihilate the Fox universe. And I just think like, let's get really weird. Let's do Deadpool in Mojo World. And that's how you get all of these characters. And it'll be, crazy and bizarre, and you can totally bring in Hugh Jackman and you can totally bring in the old Fantastic Four and all of it because it's Mojo World and it's kind of like a mini Secret Wars event,
Well, it leads up perfectly because we remember what happened in Deadpool 2. Shatterstar's dead.
Yes.
He killed Mojo's #1 star. His #1 TV show was Shatterstar. So how do you make a bigger show than Shatterstar? Well, I'm going to put Deadpool and Wolverine in a movie show together, whatever it is. And that's how you get there. It's just perfect.
It's totally meta too, because everyone says like, if you put Deadpool and Wolverine in a movie, it will make billions. Meta. What Mojo would think exactly the same thing. So
it's perfect.
Yeah. And I just want to see, like the live action Mojo and like, who would be Mojo? Like I would, like, again, like the Spawn kid in me is like, just, do CGI and give it John Leguizamo's like, performance because he was a great clown. But who would, I want to see what Mojo looks like in the MCU. And I don't think we're ever going to get that, in the regular course of the Feigeverse. So throw it into Deadpool.
I think Rainn Wilson would be fun.
Oh, yeah.
I think Rainn Wilson would be fun. Back to the comics. I just wanted to get that out of the way there. That was my. I saw the opening and I was like, we need to put this out there because you never know. Because if this happens, we can key point this.
We will have called that shot. Yes.
On to the other of the big two, a little known company called Detective Comics, DC. I am still not so much getting my feet wet, but solidifying myself in DC because DC for me is a little more challenging to get into, and it's something I credit Marvel in doing. Is at the beginning of every single book, no matter what issue, you have a nice little summary on the very first page that'll catch the reader up. So that's why I always say pick a book off the shelf. Marvel is very good at that. DC, on the other hand, you will not know you're on part 3 of 4 of a story until the very end. And then you're like, what the hell is going on?
Correct. Correct.
So it's a downside, but DC is putting out a lot of good stuff, man. A lot of good stuff. Arguably, not even arguably, my favorite superhero comic on the shelf right now is Tom Taylor's Nightwing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just perfect. And so that is my favorite DC book of 2022 is Tom Taylor's Nightwing. And the way that I saw somebody describe this the other day, and it was almost like what Marvel isn't doing with Spider-Man, what DC is doing with Dick Grayson, and how they're just continuing his character. They're growing upon Dick Grayson's character. They're not cutting him down and putting him back to a bad spot. They're growing upon it. It's why it's a feel good book every single month. You see Dick, after Alfred is dead, inherits a lot of money. What is he going to do with that money? He's going to use it to honor Alfred and create a literal haven in Bloodhaven to try to help his city and run for mayor and go up against the Blockbuster. And and the writing's so good. He's in a relationship with Barbara Gordon again. It's not like, oh, here we are with Spider-Man. It's like, oh, him and MJ broke up again. It's
Right.
we're continuing on with this. It's how he shows he can have relation. It's just so well written. And I love it every single month.
And it's also gorgeous. Like, it's just a beautiful book.
Yes.
Yeah, it's I agree. I knew you were going to take that one. I knew it. Just like I knew Jeff was coming. My favorite, and I think you're right, absolutely, that it is hard to kind of jump into DC. It's harder than Marvel, because Marvel gives you that summary at the beginning. Like, the top of the page will say, like, this is the background of the character, totally. Like, Daredevil can't see, has better, every other sense is heightened. And then they get you like, and this is exactly where you are in this particular story. Even X-Men, what I've really appreciated with X-Men is not only will they give you the rundown, but then they'll give you like, and these are the characters that are in this issue, so that you have time to like kind of run off to Google and be like, what can they do? Oh, okay, got it. But my favorite DC book came on really late, and it's a mini, but it's Blue Beetle Graduation Day.
Okay.
I love it. It's so fun, and it's just it's funny how we're both kind of like attracted to the Peter Parker-y kind of stories, but Graduation Day it's Jaime Reyes who, on his graduation day and having trouble juggling being a Blue Beetle with being a kid and being a member of his family and all of the responsibilities. But then it's just like cameos. And this thing came on in like November or December of last year. It's very late. It's only like 2 or 3 issues out, but in like 2 or 3 issues, it's been like Superman, Batman, Starfire, like the other Blue Beetle, Ted Kord. It's just like Cameo City, and they're just kind of like, hey, kid, you're a kid, kid. And it feels very much like Tony Stark to Peter Parker in the MCU movies, but in comics. And I'm really appreciative of, because as a father of kids who are now just starting to get into comic reading themselves, it is nice to have these like jumping on points with characters that are more relatable than DC's pantheon of gods or dark brooding billionaires. It's like, here's also the Latino kid. You know what those are like, because you're one yourself. You're something of a Latino kid yourself. So that's my favorite of the year.
All right. No, that's a really good pick, and it reminds me of a conversation I had with we had Matthew Aguilar earlier or later last year, a couple months ago, and we talked about, and I think Blue Beetle can easily be thrown in this discussion on how, for me, why I like Dick Grayson. He's probably the most quote unquote Marvel character that DC has. He's just very relatable, very grounded. It's not like, the gods trying to be people. He's just a person trying to do his best. And Blue Beetle very much also fits in that mold, which is why I'm also extraordinarily excited for this movie, because I think it's going to be the first. It's going to be very similar to how Shazam just like felt it worked for me.
Yes.
And I think Blue Beetle will also have like that. It worked.
It's I don't want to sound like a lame dad, but like I took my kids to see Black Adam, and they were excited to see Black Adam. And then, not that they're, scaredy cats or anything, but the violence in Black Adam was like kind of jarring to the point where like my kids were like, "Oh my god, did he just tear that man in half?" Like, yes, he did. Yes, he did. And I did not realize that was going to happen in this movie. And so like Blue Beetle, I feel like I'm safe going in to see Blue Beetle, and that it's not going to be anything like that. It's hopefully closer to a Spider-Man movie, or maybe even to like a, you know, Spider-Verse would be very high praise, but like something like that, where it's like, here's your introduction to this character. My kids didn't know anything about Miles Morales before the Spider-Verse movie. So hopefully DC has the potential to have a Miles Morales-ish glow up here for this character. Like if this movie hits, this could be one of their very popular characters very quickly. And so I hope that it does. And I hope that the James Gunn, reorganization of the universe, I hope Blue Beetle's in there.
Yeah, I can absolutely see Gunn not focusing so much or shifting the focus on him, but really ramping up if it's successful, which I genuinely think it will be. I think Blue Beetle has, Scarlet Witch was a C-list character pre-MCU.
Yes. Yeah.
Now look at her, right?
Yep.
Very much, I could definitely see that happening.
It's so interesting to like, my kids are 11 and 8, and to explain to them like the MCU and saying like before 2008, the average person walking down the street could not have told you that Tony Stark is Iron Man. They would say like, "Oh, Iron Man, I kind of know that guy. He's like the Rocketeer, right?" But now, they know the name Tony Stark. Tony Stark is almost as, ubiquitous as like Clark Kent. It is
crazy.
And it is crazy to think about. Steve Rogers. These are not names that people knew, non-comics readers knew. So I do think that Miles Morales hit for Marvel, and I think that this Blue Beetle movie, if it's good, if it's just, please be good, because it's going to be really rough to be out there if it's not good.
I usually go into DC movies with not whatever the opposite of optimism is. Pessimism, I guess, is literally what it is. But this one is
skepticism.
Skepticism. This one's the first one since I'm like, I have a feeling a Shazam moment will kind of happen. We'll just really close a lot of people. The other two DC comics I have on my list that I wanted to at least shout out. I mean, Chip Zdarsky is getting all the love from me today. Batman the Knight was a book about how he became Batman. How Bruce became Batman. And you look at that on paper like, wow, we're really doing this again? But man, this is the best version of it. I'm not even kidding. It's so good. It was so good. It was so, like, I can't even put into words how just well told it was. And it just works in his story. And the other one is Poison Ivy, G. Willow Wilson's Poison Ivy. I wanted to shout out. Potentially going to be one of the best Poison Ivy runs out there. It's that good. We are in a golden age of indie comics. Man, we are in a golden age of indie comics. There's so many good books out there that when it comes to picking my favorite for 2022 is the hardest thing on this list. It's not even close. So I'm going to let you go first because I'm going to try not to flip-flop on my answer.
So I think you know where I'm going with this, but I love it. It's so fun. It's 8 billion genies. It's just like, it's the silliest concept. Just the idea being every human on Earth, when the 8 billionth person is born, that moment, everybody suddenly gets a genie, and they're all like, "Hi, I'm your genie. You get one wish." And, that's, you can't wish for more wishes, basically. And then just the calamity that ensues. And it's 8, it goes like 8 minutes after, 8, hours after, 8 days after, all the way. And I think I'm waiting on issue 7 right now. So 7 of 8. And it's just, it's kind of like an anti-Walking Dead, because it is an apocalyptic moment, because of course it is. If everybody suddenly got a wish, And the funny thing is, like, there's a counter. Like, here's the human population, here's the genie population. The genies disappear as soon as you make a wish, and like within like 8 minutes, there's like 200 million less people on Earth. Like because of course there would be.
Because someone would
So
just wish for something so terrible, like I want to be a supervillain.
right, or I wish everyone named Chad just died right now. And
Oh
then
my
everybody
god!
exactly. It's like that. It's the rules are nuts. And like,
So
and the other thing,
there's essentially no rules to this other than you can't make more wishes.
right, and you do have to
Wow.
word it well, because your wish can be canceled out by someone else's wish, right? Like if you wished for every day to be, every day to be snowy, and then the person after you wish for every day to be sunny, it's like Marvel Snap. Well, their ongoing cancels your ongoing.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
That's such a good
it's
pick,
fun.
man.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and it's the genies are cute, but also like they're just, they have to grant your wish, and if you wish for genocide, they have to grant it. So they're cute, but they're also like, it's kind of like gremlins, like they can do harm. And I can't wait to see how this ends, and I hope that it ends in a way that is satisfying to the story, but allows for future storytelling in that universe, because 8 issues ultimately I don't feel will be enough to get into the world. But yeah, it's so much fun.
So I have not read 8 Billion Genies yet, but I've heard nothing but good things. And I was one of the books when I was trying to cut back, and this is okay for anyone who gets overwhelmed and is like, I'm spending too much money on a week to week basis. It's okay to cut back, because I was like, I'm gonna get this as a trade.
Yep.
This is to me, this is how I save money. If I continuously hear good things about a book, I'll just wait. So I held off,
Yep.
and I think the trade's coming out in either March or February, somewhere around there. So I can't wait to read it then, because I hear nothing but good things about that book.
I think I heard it first from Patton Oswalt on the WTF
Mm.
podcast, and I was like, that sounds interesting, and I sought it out.
Yep. Man, I constantly say indie comics right now. We're a straight golden age, because I wrote down like 15 honorable mentions, but I'll cut it down to 3. And because Chip Zdarsky needs to be mentioned in every single round of mine,
Yes.
Public Domain is a very inside baseball book about what it's like to be a comic creator in today's world, where you have comic book movies and the creators and the artists get no love. And that's what the book is about. And it's about rights and ownership of characters, and what happens if an old artist has a piece of paper and says, I actually own the rights to this character now, and what that does. It's phenomenal. It's a Substack book, and it's printed now. You can actually pick up the trade tomorrow when we're recording this. So when this comes out, you can pick up the trade of the first volume, and it's excellent. It is written, drawn, and lettered by Chip. So this was a literal passion project come to life.
I think Chip Zdarsky might be multiple man. Just how are you? How do you run Daredevil and Batman, and you're doing indie on the side? Like, where do you find the time?
He's Chip Zdarsky. He's just living out in the woods in Canada, and
right. Yeah.
So that's my first honorable mention. The second one is Stephanie Phillips Grimm. Phenomenal. It's a book on you can read some of these picks, because I made a whole list on some of the best indie books to pick up on right now. Grimm is one of them, and Grimm is essentially the early story of which is there's these Reapers. They're all people who died in a previous life, but they become Grim Reapers essentially. But she doesn't know how she died. So the first arc is her learning her history and why she doesn't know that. And it's really cool twists on old folklores of death and mythology, Greek mythology, Roman you're throwing it all in there. It's great. And I can't not mention Something is Killing the Children, the best comic on the books on the shelves right now. It really is. It is so good. Even if there's a slow issue, the next one will follow up with an absolute banger. And even if it is a slow issue, it's still a great issue.
Yeah.
It's so good.
That's going to be the one I'm going to have to jump into. That's going to be the one I'm going to have to pick up.
Yeah, if you like horror, I can't recommend it enough. And thank goodness, every single person I've recommended it to has loved it. So that makes me
Okay.
feel a little more confident every time I'm like, go pick this up because it's that good. But the number one indie book of the year is a limited series, and it concluded right at the end of the year.
Hmm.
And it's one of two comics that made me cry. The very last issue, visibly, and the amount of grown men on TikTok I saw crying over the finale of the last issue of this. Its book is called Do a Power Bomb. It's Daniel
Oh,
Warren Johnson. And even if you do not like wrestling, this is a wrestling book, but even if you don't like wrestling, it's okay because it is not for the wrestling fan. The wrestling fan will love this because Daniel Warren Johnson made this because it was inspired by when he had a baby, and
mhm.
they'd be up at 3 in the morning, and had to be up with the baby at 3 in the morning. So what does he do to pass time at 3 in the morning? Puts on Japanese pro wrestling, New Japan Pro, and he fell in love with wrestling again. So this was an ode to that and an ode to being a parent. And the last issue tears you up because every issue has a really cool, really cool moments and really emotional, just beats right in the chest. Like it'll just get you every single time. And it gets silly at the end, but that's okay because wrestling is silly,
Right.
right? Like
Oh,
it
wow.
gets it gets silly, but wrestling is silly, right? So it was phenomenal. I'm being very vague about it because I don't want to spoil the story.
Yeah.
Other than it's about two wrestlers trying to bring back someone they lost. And they
Mm.
enter a necromancy intergalactic wrestling tournament to bring whoever they lost back.
Tale as old as time, right? You know, just
It's perfect.
yeah.
It's perfect.
That sounds
Like,
great.
it's so good, man. The trade's coming out soon. I can't recommend this book enough. It's
Yeah.
easily, it wasn't just like my favorite new series of the year. It was my favorite indie book of the year if I had to separate them. And you can find all of these picks of ours on the Agents of Fandom Awards of 2022 uh, article that we did. Shout out to Garrett who had to edit all of that.
Oh my god.
That was also an idea that you came up with.
Yeah, but I came up with an idea, I threw it, and then I ran away. It's like, I am not going to organize this. I'm just going to put it out there.
And I
Oh
dragged it
my.
behind me, and I dropped a big pile of whatever it was in front of Garrett. And I was like, "Here's everyone on a Google Doc. Have fun."
Yeah,
So shout
I
out
just
Garrett who
took
had to
the
edit
pin
that.
out of took the pin out of that idea, threw the grenade into the room, and ran away.
But it's great. You can find a lot of the staff on the Agents of Fandom their picks of the year, whether it was a favorite movie, a favorite book, a favorite show, favorite album. It's all there, including our favorite comic picks of 2022. Any other books you wanted to shout out from last year?
Oh, off the top of my head, X-Men Red.
X-Men Red
Um
is great.
X-Men Red is great. Just, I had never considered that Storm would be a force multiplier on Magneto and vice versa, but of course, X-Men Red. I feel like I'm trying to, like, it's COVID times, like 2021, 2022. It's all kind of running together on me. Like, what
I
did
can
I
probably
get
help you out here.
when? Yeah, like, not did Nonstop Spider-Man, was that 21 or 22?
I want to say that was 21 because I don't remember Nonstop in 22. Although we
Yeah,
did have
see,
a
like,
lot of Spider-Man books in 2022.
yes, yeah. So it's, yeah, like, that's what I'm saying. It's hard to remember. Um, Unfortunately, like, a ton of, the Miles Morales stuff. It's like, I don't know how many Spider-Verse things I can do in the comics anymore. Like the
Mhm.
the problematic Thor Spider-Man. This was the year of that.
Lordy. Well, I mean, everyone's getting a different version. We're doing the Gwen Stacy now,
Right.
being a whatever, which is weird because I feel like we just did that.
Hmm. Yeah. Now it's like, what if
Anyway,
Gwen Stacy was Rhino or something? And
yeah, like
okay,
okay,
what if? It's not much of a what if.
which
Oh, the
which is
Doctor
weird because it
Strange
should have
book.
been a what if, but
Yes, it should have been. The
Jed
Doctor
McKay's
Strange book,
Strange.
the
Fall
The
Sunrise.
one that I posted in our chat the other day.
Fall Sunrise is
yeah.
yeah, Treadmore. That's trippy. And it's a trippy story. Like it's a story where you actually have to sit down. I almost have a notebook on the side.
Mm-hmm.
But and I picked it up because I was like, I really like Jed McKay's Strange, where Clea is the Sorcerer Supreme right now.
Correct.
Trying to bring back a dead Doctor Strange, which was a very good event in 2022. I also say was the death of Doctor Strange. Really enjoyed that. But this one, out of canon, it's just so trippy. The art is ridiculous, but the story in there is very deep and very mythological, and you almost like have to like remember who these giant entities that he created his name are, and you go through it. There's a third issue's either coming out tomorrow or the week after. It's cool. I think it's a little too out there for me, and I like strange books, but it was cool.
I don't mind it being so out there because it is so confidently out there. Like the artwork is like, and I described it in one of our chats this way. It's like Dr. Seuss and like Mike Mignola and like Salvador Dali all together on acid. Yeah. All together rolled up into one. And so like even the art is so abstract that it's kind of hard. It was a beautiful book and I read it, intently. And at the end I was like, I don't really know what just happened there, but it was incredible to watch.
That was my gripe with it. Yeah. I really had no idea what the story was in the first, like going on. And then the second one, you figure it out a little bit, but it's like first issue is just, look at all those crazy things happening.
It kind of reminded me of that show Legion on FX, where it's like, I love this. I could not recap the plot for you. I don't know what happened on this show.
Yep.
There was a psychic dance battle. That's what I can remember. But other than that, I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember much.
So 2023, there's some good stuff coming out this year. One of my most anticipated books of 2023 has already come out, and that is Steve Orlando's Scarlet Witch. And we also did a review for this on the Agents of Fandom website, and I really enjoyed it. And Scarlet Witch is a very difficult character to summarize her entire history because she has a very complicated, convoluted, problematic history in the Marvel universe. So how do we take that character who is one of the most popular characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and simplify her for the future of Marvel Comics and get more people on board who are fans of that character and start reading her comic again? And they did 2 books last year that were Wanda related. One of them was The Darkhold, which is essentially her overcoming Chthon for the final time. I thought that was fine.
Yep.
The other one I didn't think was fine was The Trial of Magneto.
Yeah.
Which is nothing to do with Magneto and is in fact a Scarlet Witch book. So that was my first problem with it, was terribly named for what it was. And it really should have been 1 to 2 issues because it dragged on and all of a sudden there was like kaijus attacking Krakoa. What is happening here?
Yeah.
But the end goal was important, which was making Wanda the final redeemer of what she did after House of M. It was her final forgiveness of it all, if you will, which was very important. So now where we are with Wanda, I think this run is going to be very important for her character. It's going to be important to get new readers on, and I really recommend this book for a new reader. I think if you are a fan of Wanda Maximoff, you'll love it. And it was great.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm looking forward to, well, it's already started, but I am looking forward to the like continuing adventures of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Because again, like as a parent, like I just want my kids to get in on the ground floor with some of these characters. And I think with the Moon Girl cartoon that's coming out, that looks incredible. This book is also like, I own the first trade of like the first volume of Moon Girl, and it's good. It's fine. It's not like definitive in any way. And it's kind of like, I want this character to get some definition. I want my kids to be able to like look at a little girl around their age and be like, yeah, awesome. Like she's the smartest person in the, in the Marvel universe. So yeah, you're right. It is. They're intrigued.
It's comics,
and yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're intrigued by it, and I'm enjoying picking it up and reading it with them. So that's what I'm looking forward to most. Corny, but that's me.
There's some other stuff, some other events that have been teased. There's a Mr. Sinister event coming up from Marvel. There is the Dawn of the DCU, which is off the curtain tales of, oh god, what do they just have? Their big event at the end of the year, which is terrible. I can't remember it at the very moment. Dark Crisis. They had a Dark Crisis at the end of the year. I fell off of it, unfortunately, a few issues in, and I'm a big Dick Grayson person, which is a shame because he is a very big player in that. But I'm curious to see what DC does in this new age that they're trying to bring up. So I'm looking out for that on the DC side. On the indie side, man, I'm just looking forward to another year of great indie comics. I already picked up a brand new #1 that dropped last week that I really liked. It's from the same artist. Forgive me, I can't remember their name. Who does House of Slaughter, which is a spinoff of Something Is Killing the Children. So very much the same vibes. It's called Children of the Black Sun, and it's a really cool concept of there's this random day in the year that happened where all of a sudden, instead of a normal sun that rose, a black sun rose. And it brought the worst out of people out. Some people murdered each other. But a child who was, if I can't remember right, I think of a child who was conceived that day and was then born essentially just pale white skin, red eyes, blonde hair. So the society looks at them weirdly, and there's a secret behind these children. So are they seen by some people as like devil children? Are they seen as some of them as what are it's very interesting, and it was just the first issue came out. And that's a crazy thing, man. There's just so many good stories out there right now.
Yeah, and I'm enjoying the Substack era too, where creators can just be like, and now I'm going to go tell my own stories, and follow me, won't you? And in terms of like the indie stuff, like I'm really going to be waiting for your recommendations before I, because it is, it's not like you go to the Marvel rack and you see like, okay, I know who Iron Man is. I'll pick up this Iron Man book. It's just, you don't know what any of these things are. So I'll just wait for you to go through all of it, and then you can recommend.
Well, that means a lot. There's still a lot of stuff. Like, again, I wasn't able to. Well, I decided not to read 8 Billion Genes because I want to wait for the trade. So there's always good stuff out there. I always keep suggesting, if you see something that just catches your eye, pick it up, because you never know. Like I saw the Children of the Black Sun. I was like, I like the art. The art looks cool. Let me see what the story's about. The story's like, yeah, the story's cool. I like the concept. Added it to my pull list because I wanted to support them. It's from Ablaze Publishing, which is a publishing company I've never had a pull list from. So I'm excited for that. And some other, the last 2 indie books I'll suggest are both from Kelly Thompson. And Black Cloak just came out this past week. This was her Substack book. That is great. If you like fantasy, if you like sci-fi, if you like murder mysteries, go pick that one up as well. And she has a new book coming out later this year that will also be on her Substack and printed from Image, called The Cull, which is looking to be a downright beautifully drawn book that I can't wait to pick up.
I picked up Black Cloak #1 the last time I was in the shop this weekend. So, because I was like, hey, I listened to that. I haven't opened it. I bought a bunch of books, and Doctor Strange was the first one I went through. Yeah. So I was like, okay, this one's gonna need. I'll make some coffee and I'll sit, read it on my free time. But yeah, the Doctor Strange one was the first one I opened, and then when I came to, I was like, okay, well, there's no time to read anything else. Once Black I regained consciousness,
I really liked it. Yeah, it benefits from the thicker first issue because it's a bigger story to tell, and you want to set up the world. So if you cut it too early, you're kind of like, what's going on here? But really recommend it. So Carlos, thank you so much for coming on, man. This was a blast. I just love talking comics with people and getting insights and recommendations, because now I really want to check out that Blue Beetle book.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, I dig your whole anti-gatekeeper, gate opener vibe. So
Gateless. We're gateless
gateless.
here.
You're
It's our
gateless, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I dig
Everyone's
it.
welcome.
I think that comics are for everyone, and
Mm.
I think a lot of people are scared to walk into their local shop because it feels like you're intruding, and you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You're invited. Go
No.
get it.
Yeah. I have yet to go into a comics shop where the people in it were, looking at me funny or whatever it was.
Mm.
They were like, "Hey," and I think one of the early times I went up to my shop and I was like, "Yeah," or my shop owner, and I was like, "I really don't know what to pick up. Do you have any recommendations?" And he gets so giddy. He's like, "Oh yeah, let's." Walks me down the entire wall, and every now and then I see a younger kid come in, and he's like, "I don't really know what to get." And again, he gets so excited. He's like, "All right, well, what character do you like? What type of stories do you like? Let's
Yeah.
go through, all right, you're a younger kid, probably shouldn't give you a Black Label book, so we'll put that up top and we'll go down the line. um it's a cool world, man,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I can see the potential of what the comics community is, and I see so many amazing creators on TikTok and Instagram and who are just so welcoming and so opening, and I just want to continue, to push that,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
you're part of
I
it too.
completely agree with it. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be aboard. But yeah, this is great. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, that does it for this episode of our little Comic Corner show. Carlos, where can people find you on the interwebs?
I'm on Twitter at on Twitter at C Freites Jr. I think it might be Carlos Freytes Jr. No,
Question mark?
C Freites Jr. I'm pretty
All
sure.
right.
Now I don't know. Don't find me. I'm untraceable. No, you can find my work at agentsoffandom.com. I'm Agent Carlos at Agents of Fandom. And then from there, I'm sure I have a Twitter link or something, or I'm commenting on something Damon put up. So just
That's true.
yeah, I'm in the
And you can
comments.
find
I'm
my
a
work.
reply boy.
Yeah. You can find my work also on the Agents of Fandom. I've been doing weekly comic reviews, sometimes spoiler free, varying to figure out what works for people. And you can find me on Twitter at Damon Tweet. You can find me on TikTok at Damon Talks Comics, TOKS Comics. And that'll do it. So everyone, peace out. Have a great rest of your day.